children in the United States today grow up believing that they too one day will go to jail. In our most segregated, ghettoized communities in the United States, young people are shuttled from decrepit, underfunded schools to these brand new high-tech prisons. They're targeted at young ages, often before they're old enough to vote, stopped, frisked, searched, interrogated about who they are, where they're going if they are headed home with nothing but Skittles in their hand. Stopped, frisked, searched, and when they're arrested, they're typically arrested for a relatively minor, non-violent, often drug-related offense, the very sorts of crimes that occur with roughly equal frequency in middle-class white communities or on college campuses, but go largely ignored. They're arrested, swept in, branded criminals and felons, and then ushered into a permanent second-class status, a status from which they will never escape.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS. I hope you're having a good day, Hump Day Wednesday. I hope you're having an excellent Hump Day Wednesday. I hope whatever you set out to do today, you were able to achieve it at some level of success and efficiency, and hopefully whatever you plan on tomorrow, you're going to be able to achieve it. I believe at this point in time, we ought to have an honest discussion about what America has turned into at this point in time. And to understand what America has turned into, you have to understand what America was. You have to understand what America has been built on. We talk about true justice in an American way, but it's for some, brothers and sisters. And it's not for me to castigate the idea of having a higher purpose, a higher ideal of life and freedom and equality and equity. It's just that it's not happening now. It's not happening now. We're seeing democracy practiced at a level where it's falling on its face. And nobody's giving explanations. Nobody's talking about these are the problems that we're having. These are the shortcomings. This is why a system does not work. And so today I was like, you know what? Let me just do my homework. Let me just do my homework. And in doing the homework, I felt like I had to bring something to the table today that was a little bit different. You know, I've had these things on my heart. A lot of you know me. The things I've been going through. I've had things on my heart, and it just really just kind of busted out today because I'm looking at society. This is Black History Month. I gave a lecture for Black History Month, realizing that this month will probably be dominated by the impeachment of a white man. How does that happen? Can we have anything? Jesus Christ. I'm tired of white people making decisions about bad decisions about other white people that made bad decisions about other white people. I can't handle it anymore. And they never tell the truth. They never tell the truth. And we, as people of color, people oppressed, you know what? You got to do your homework too. You got to understand what history was as opposed to people giving you his story or her story. The advent of Karens and Kens, they're cute, brothers and sisters, but Karens and Kens kill, have killed, and will continue to kill unless, you know what, we just coalesce and say we can't have it anymore. We have to have an addressing to the things that are going on right here, right now. So let's jump into it. If you're coming to the show for the first time, buckle up because this is one of those days. I'm on a little bit of a rant. I want to say rant, but I'm a little bit on the tear because you know what? I have a feeling, brothers and sisters. I have a burning desire that we need to get to the truth. And I look at the byproduct of this justice system, the byproduct of our politics and how it affects people. I want to show you guys something. You might have heard me talk about this young man, but I'm going to put it up here. This gentleman right here, his name is Jeremy Clark. Now, for those who really understand me, JT actually met Jeremy. Jeremy was one of my students my first year teaching in Milwaukee. Do you know what this is, brothers and sisters? This is a log from Waupun Penitentiary in Wisconsin. Jeremy has been locked up most of his adult life in Waupun. And I, personally, feel some type of way about it, but I also feel like in some regards, in my naivete, I contributed to this system. This system has had this young man locked up for the majority of his life and possibly for the rest of his life. Let me even add this, that he may be at this point a practicing Muslim, what makes this thing even more abhorrent, brothers and sisters. Because even in my ideological space about dealing with young black men and giving them pride and direction and guidance, I still lost one of my first year teaching, and this is him. What is he talking about? Being locked up with COVID-19. Is it annoying, brothers and sisters, that he may write so well, but when I had him as a teacher, he couldn't write at all? He's learned his writing skills in prison. So we're going to go back, brothers and sisters. Let's just talk about, our topic here is power, crime, and politics. So I want to, first of all, if you're new to the show, thank you for coming. I'm not giving a whole disposition on that. We appreciate you coming. Next, maybe tomorrow, on Throwback Thursday, I'll give you the full greeting. But we have a full show. I don't have that much time. And I want to emphasize why I am irritated. It's because I don't have enough time. Okay? Yes, Altaf, I'm going to get to that because I saw that. I applaud Canada for that. U.S., it ain't even happened yet. But let me go through my stars in the building, please. Ree is our craft services director. She handles all of Preacher Mars' dietary needs and dietary menus. She's been on hiatus for quite a long time. I've lost a lot of weight, Ree. We'll talk about that later. Sister Ika coming all the way, giving that flavor from Indonesia, the spicy flavor from Indonesia. Jakarta Dapak, thank you so much for coming. We wish nothing but peace and blessing to you and your family. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My little brother, Johnny Thomas, he met Jeremy Clark. Brothers and sisters, he may not remember him, but he met him. He probably heard me talk about Jeremy in one of the crying sessions I had to my first year teaching. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He sends that out to the SOS family. Yes, we the SOS family, brothers and sisters. So we're going to talk this game today. Our consultant producer, Sultana Whitfield. Thank you so much, Sister Sultana. We didn't get a chance to talk earlier today, but I think it's a topic I had to jump on. I hope you don't mind, and we could talk about it later if I'm out of line. Brother Altaf Rashid, all the way from Toronto, makes a trip down here. No passport, no vaccination papers, no immigration. He just comes on the show, and he does what he do. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Sister Rabina also rides over here too. She flies all the way over from the UK, staying up late to hang out with the peoples. Politics, yeah. There's a whole lot of things we're going to talk about today, sister. So feel free to jump in. Anybody that's on the show today, and I see some new faces. We got Zakiya Muhammad. I'm going to get to you in a minute. Feel free to jump on the spot. Give your salams. If you have something to say it. I'm going to be talking, but I'm going to throw everybody in. I'm going to do it like Al Jarreau used to do it in Milwaukee, brothers and sisters. Politics. And Altaf, I saw this today. The Proud Boys have been declared a terrorist group in Canada. People, why can't they be declared a terrorist group in the United States? Why? You're at the head of an insurrection. You broke every rule of democracy, and you're walking around. You're going to get a case. You are a domestic terrorist. Okay? That's right, Ree. Wow. Sister Zakiya Muhammad, thank you so much for coming on the show. We welcome you all the way from Fort Myers, Florida. We ask that you be a part of our family. Feel free to contribute. We welcome you. We thank you for spending a little time with us. This is the Shout Out Show. I'm Preacher Moss. I'm just a host. I don't own the platform. I host it, but this is our platform. I want to officially welcome you to the SOS family. You have officially gotten your shout out. My main man, Adam Khan, also. Did you come down with my main man, Althoff, all the way down from Canada? I know that. It's Oakville, Ontario. I think I probably got that wrong too. But he comes down. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Amanda Santiago, are you still in Tennessee, sister? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks so much. Saludos to you, sister. Good to hear from you as always. Let me give you two cases, brothers and sisters. Two cases. You ready? Here we go. The first prison ever built is in 1625. It's in England. The first prison ever built in the United States, it's in 1790. Hatched in the living room, the idea is hatched in the living room of Benjamin Franklin, who's one of the framers of the Constitution. What does 1790 tell you, brothers and sisters? That a prison was built in the United States in 1790. I'm going to tell you what it says. It's going to tell you that it didn't exist here in the United States before then. Case in point, Native Americans did not have prisons. The idea of incarceration is not an indigenous thought, brothers and sisters. It's not an indigenous thought. This is a part of a system, a political system. You can take it from colonialism on up to present today and call it politics or free elections. But my point, brothers and sisters, is the game is rigged. It's not allowable for people to have a pious understanding in politics, to be righteous, to be moral. I've said this before. The job of most politicians, I won't say all, but most politicians, is to stay in politics. And to stay in politics, you've got to play the game. Yes, it's a political game of pimps and hoes, hoes and pimps. No matter what side you're on, you're going to be one or the other or both. That's the game. That's the hustle. In the words of Iceberg Slim, you're going to act funny for the money and strange for the change. And in that space, brothers and sisters, in that space, we've created here in the United States, as of late, a pocket for criminal activity. And that pocket has been shaped by the power structure that feels absolutely no responsibility, no fiduciary responsibility or relationship to the people it's supposed to serve. It's the reason why you have a Jeremy Clark who's been in prison most of his adult life. I could look at that young man in a picture and still see him when he was a 5th grader. And the system has not boded well for him. And let me tell you something, people. If you don't know this, I'm going to tell you guys something about crime. All right? Whether you did crime, didn't do crime, you're a victim of crime, I'm going to tell you about the criminal mindset. The criminal mindset is set into a situation whereby the criminal mindset has to work in a parallel universe because it will never, ever, ever think or breach the idea of defying open society. Meaning, when I steal, I don't tell you I'm going to steal. When I'm doing drugs, I don't tell you in open society, I'm doing drugs. When I rob a bank, I don't go, hey, I'm going to beat through about 300. I want you to have a couple stacks for me. We don't do that. Because the juxtaposition to crime is that you have people who follow the law. You have people that follow the law. And the problem now is we've blurred the lines of people. You know what? The people who make the laws are the criminals who are used to breaking the law. At no other time in history, and you can mark my words on this, at no other time in history, brothers and sisters, have you seen such brazen action in terms of an absolute affront and flouting of the law? Never. We've never seen a situation where people openly defy the law. Take selfies. Hey, look at me. I'm breaking the law. Look at me. I'm in the Capitol building. They openly and brazenly defy the law in open society. And we say, what's the deal, brothers? How can you do that? How does it happen? I'm going to tell you how it happens. Because when the leader of your country does it, everyone else feels like they can do it. Everyone else feels like, I'm with that guy. I'm with his behavior. I'm with his mind thought. I'm with his expression. I'm with his criminality. Because if he can get away with it, I can get away with it. There you go, sister. The irony, if the Proud Boys, is that they work with the CIA and they're a group of UK sent over 54,000 convicts to the U.S. in the 1700s. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. U.S. prisons were created for profit and therefore customers to make profit. Yeah, exactly. You've got to frame the narrative. Now we're in a really, and I want to make sure I specifically elaborate on this idea that we are in a power struggle now. Okay, it's a struggle for power, and unfortunately, at this point in time, this power that we're talking about will not be played out in the White House. It'll be played out throughout the country. You know, you thought Timothy McVeigh was something. We're talking throughout the country. Do you ever notice how they never talk about the Oklahoma City bombing anymore? There's really no anniversaries or things like that. You know why? Because there are people in the United States that didn't see it as a crime. There are people in the United States who did not see that as loss of life, criminal loss of life. They saw it as liberty. They saw it as expressing freedom and fighting for our country. We've had this around for God knows how long, right? And yet, and still, we tend to somehow believe that maybe if we get out on our knees and we pray to the Most High, that the Most High will enter their hearts and change their behavior. The truth is, the Most High is saying this is pretty much who they are. You better take a look. You better get off your knee because that's not a good position to be around these people. And these people, brothers and sisters, are the political structure. I don't want to say they're the problem because that gives them too much power. But they are the people, the gatekeepers to the solutions. The solutions that will change this behavior. The solutions that in many ways will reframe this thing. Here we are, a month later, almost a month later, since they crashed the Capitol. How many people have gone to jail? How many people have been tried? If we're going to go with this whole idea of crime and punishment, why are they even walking around? Why are they even having trials? You know why? Because people feel as though this is the way to handle things for that group of people. I showed Sister Michelle Alexander. She wrote the book, The New Jim Crow. That book is out a while ago, but I want everybody, if you get a chance, to go read it. Go read it. Because what she does is she's very, very, very didactic in having everybody understand that this whole idea of prisons, brothers and sisters, it's not for the masses. It's for the minorities. The minorities. You see, when there were no black people, the minorities were the actual criminals. But then when you had blacks, you had Native Americans, then you created a new minority. Let's say, minority A and then minority A1, A2, right? And in A1 and A2, you found this delineation of law. You ever heard of a murder? The person's dead, but they have to categorize what's the murder. Was it voluntary, involuntary, manslaughter, first degree, second degree, third degree? When the fact of the matter is, the person who's been victimized is no longer here. Is it a situation, brothers and sisters, that we now have a law system that rewards people who make victims out of other people. The original idea of criminal justice, brothers and sisters, was the fact that, and let's just talk about indigenous, if you will. The idea of indigenous law, I'm talking about indigenous civil law, if you will, they didn't have prisons. Africans didn't have prisons until the Europeans came. Native Americans didn't have prisons until the Europeans. Is it a shock that one of the most overrepresented cultures or groups in the United States in U.S. prison population are Native Americans? They're 1% of the population, but they represent up to 10 to 14 to 70% of inmates. I'm talking about throughout the state. I mean, it's a higher rate, maybe a higher rate. I think on ratio than African Americans, but here we have this thing, and it's a switch. Used to be because of the old guard, the OGs, if you will, the OGs of Africa, the OGs of Native Americans, the OGs in South America. You know what they did, brothers and sisters? They took an act that was incorrect, and they looked to correct the act by having a person do what? Retribution. Rehabilitation was not their thing. Rehabilitation was cumbersome because it takes people to rehabilitate you, to evaluate it. They've dealt with the thing, and they made crime a system of when it was victim-centered. Is any thought, or does it bother you that victim statements in criminal cases happen at the end of the trial? At the end of the trial, the victims get to talk to the inmate or the perpetrator at the end of the trial. Does that seem buffalo butt backwards, brothers and sisters? It does to me. As an inmate used to say, hell, man, you sitting on the TV looking at the sofa. That's exactly what I'm saying. The victims have to wait for justice to go through this whole system. And in that way, you reintroduce them to their own victimization, their own pain. Let me tell y'all something. This is why you got violent crime. Crime period. But I'm going to tell you why you have violent crime. Okay? I'm going to kick this to you and work with me on this. The reason why you have violent crime is because, in a nutshell, criminals will not openly defy society. If the laws are over here, they're not going to go into an open space and defy the law. Doesn't happen. However, think to this one. When they commit a crime, I always say the reason that person has a gun or a knife is because they know they can't sit there in a conversation and tell you their logic and have you accept their logic to give them what they need. They can't sway you over to your logic. It would take months, years, but I got to have this money right now. I got to have this purse right now. I got to do what I got to do right now. That sense of urgency, that's why you have violent crime. Seriously, I'm going to scare you to my point of view. I'm going to intimidate you to my point of view. And why am I talking about this? Because it happens with the police. It happened with colonization. It happened with slavery. It happens. And it's been held up and I want to say held up and perpetuated by the laws, which comes to my next point. Who makes the laws? Exactly. The people who make the laws are the politicians. Thank you, Mama Son. Appreciate you. Got another one, sister. Native Americans have been incarcerated in order to obliterate them as the British did to the indigenous of Tasmania. Yeah. Also, it weakens treaty relationships. Remember that. It weakens treaty relationships. My dad was telling me about how Native Americans have their own police. You know, like you can't incarcerate them. You know, somebody from the tribal police force has to come get them and take them back, which I think is actually kind of dope. It's actually kind of dope because they're not susceptible to American justice. I really want to look at that now because now we have an increasing Native American population in U.S. prisons. I'll come back to that later. But let's talk about politics. Politics has gotten to the point now whereby, just as I said, the original idea of criminal justice is that it was victim first. It was victim focused. Now it's perpetrator focused. We spend more time on the perpetrator than we do on the victim. Think about that. Maybe if you took part of the money you spent for incarcerating these people and gave it to the victim. Maybe if you took 25%, because the prisons are being run, on a markup anyway, give it to the victim. Give it to the process of healing for the victim. Why can't we do that? Better yet, why haven't we thought of something like that? And it just hasn't happened. And again, I'm thinking outside of the box, and I'm like, why aren't other people thinking outside of the box? I'll tell you why. Politics. Politics, as Honorable Minister Farrakhan used to say, politics, because you now have a situation, brothers and sisters, where the light is pulled off, and you have people who are exposed, brothers and sisters. You have politicians who were exposed for being a part of this insurrection. Elected officials. Also, peace officers. These are peace officers who have been identified as being a part of this insurrection. Just yesterday, they had a memorial for the Capitol Police person who was murdered. And I do say murder. I don't say kid. He was murdered, brothers and sisters. Because the intention of that crowd was not to just walk in there and disrupt anything. And you knew it from the time you heard about it. JT's a military guy. When you have military reconnaissance, it's a different thing. They weren't going in to get information. They were going in to kick butt, take names. They were looking for people. That constitutes a crime. How is it, with all its evidence, somehow it's blunted and we have to run it through a filter of an impeachment? I don't want impeachment. I just want you to go to jail. Why is it that, why don't they just line up all these guys, shackle them like they did with Africans in Middle Passage, shackle 30, 40, 50 of them, march them down Pennsylvania Avenue, and at the head of the crowd, let it be old Agent Orange all shackled up too, and then you could turn around and talk to the people. Do it as a prisoner. Do it locked up. Do it when you're not being looked at as this presidential figure, but you're not. You're demonic. And this attitude, we never ever talk about demonic behavior in politics. I have never said demonic behavior in politics until this year. And you know what it had to do with? It had to do with the fact that I had to look at what people were saying. I've used words like cult. I've fashioned some of these people following Trump like the people who followed Jim Jones in the Guyana tragedy. They've been drinking the Kool-Aid. And what we also have is a very, very clear message that clarity is not needed. The Democrats, you want to impeach Trump? I'm going to tell y'all something. It ain't going to happen because you have laws that allow people not to look at the truth. What is an impeachment going to do? He can't become president again, but he could still be a citizen walking around? I know a whole lot of guys in prison I wish they would impeach me as opposed to convict me. Well, I can just walk around and I can't go back in that store where I stole something. I can't go back in the house where I murdered people. I can't go in that corner where I sold drugs anymore. They'd have taken that deal, brothers and sisters. They'd have taken a deal. But now we have this thing. Call it wine and roses like the Romans used to do. Call it wine and roses. Because the show's about to start now. We are looking at, for lack of a better word, the deconstruction of American democracy. We will be thrown into the Stone Ages. Because people, brothers and sisters, have now become prisoners in this space of power, crime, and politics. And they don't see themselves as being a part of any of it at the same time. It will be the domain of which they project on to everyone else. My power is maintained by my politics, and I can do crime. I can literally send people to prison I don't like. Think of some of the terminology you used to hear. Remember the 2016 election? You heard a man tell a woman in a presidential debate, when I'm president, you're going to jail. Where's that in the Constitution? Where's that in the presidential powers? But you know what though? And I'm gonna give Trump this. I'm gonna give Trump this one right here. He punked most of America. Not black America. Not the folks been watching for a long time. Not people overseas. But he punked the people that he had to punk. He punked all you Republicans. He punked all you Proud Boys. Again, turned it into a game of not conservative or that. He turned into a game of pimps and hoes. He was one pimp, and he turned the rest of the GOP into hoes. And I don't mean to be mean-spirited, but that's the game. When you snatch people's spirits and you put them out on the street, knowing that all their actions, all their activities, all their speech was going to be put out, and the energy was just for you, for your well-being, for your ego, for your demonic purposes. That's what the game is. You know, Mitch McConnell, McCarthy, a couple of guys. You know what they should do, man? They should just strip those guys down, put them in lingerie and hot pants, put lipstick on them, and just let them walk up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. You know, when I was growing up, there's a place called 14th Street, and that's where you see all the prostitutes. I remember my mom taking me down 14th Street and covering my eyes when I was a kid. Don't you be looking, do that. You better not look. I'd be like, I'm not looking, mommy. Well, it's all gentrified now. But maybe they need to have a presidential whole stroll. A presidential GOP whole stroll. And if we can't, brothers and sisters, send these people to prison, well, let's let them know. Let us let them do what they do best. We're just going to give them the uniforms, the capacity, and the space to do it. But we're going to keep it away from the levels of politics, power, decency, morality, and ethics. All right, brothers and sisters, that's it from me for today. I have rambled long enough. I want to give a quick shout out, brothers and sisters, to our sponsor. You know how our sponsor is. Be financially independent. You see it on the bottom, www.befinancialindependent.com. You can go to the website, or you can call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's befinancialindependent.com, or call 1-800-679-3175. I'm going to throw this up here. That is the space right there. That's right. Increase and grow your income in financial services. Hosted, commandeered by no other than the Harriet Tubman of financial advising and financial freedom, Maxine B. Cade, Esquire. All right. So look, you guys have been great. I got to bounce. I really appreciate you listening to me. I hope I didn't go too far overboard. But, we just can't continue like this. And people go, preach, you're a comedian. Oh, yeah, I'm a comedian. And believe me, when I finish writing this out, it's going to be hilarious. But it has to start at a point of honesty. So, inshallah, you'll see it soon. Okay? God bless. Want everyone here again, have a wonderful day. Let's try and get to Thursday. And let's try and have some fun on Thursday, inshallah. I don't know everything that's going to be going on in politics, but my heart lies with the politics of the people. So, without further ado, listen, be great, everybody. If you can't be okay, be great. If you can be great, doggone, you can be excellent. All right? Cool. Lies God, keep it simple. I will see y'all soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace again. Thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate you. Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from ShOUT. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out ShOUT.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.